Hey guys, it's Chris, and I want to do a little addendum to my Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens movie review. Check the link in the description below if you hadn't seen that. Because during the haze of fatigue and 14 or 15 hours of editing, I had forgot a few things, and I want to talk about a couple characters. One being Rey and her potential lineage, and also Supreme Leader Snoke, who I still think is going to be Darth Plagueis. So again, if you hadn't seen the movie yet, this will contain spoilers. I will be talking about specific things that happened in the movie, so don't watch if you don't want to be spoiled. Otherwise, check out some of my other videos. I got a lot of cool shit on this channel. Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead. So go check that out and then come back to this after you see the movie. Okay, so first let's talk about Rey. So I had initially thought, like a lot of people thought, that Rey was going to be the twin of Kylo Ren and be Han and Leia's daughter. So anyway, it looks like J.J. Abrams and Disney went a different direction, and it's probably going to end up being Luke's daughter, and there's a few things that point to that. So let's talk about those really quick. First of all, you have the lightsaber that was Luke's down in the basement of Maz Kanata, and it seemed to call out to her. She started hearing voices. Some of those voices were Anakin, some of those were Luke, and some of those have been confirmed to be Ben Kenobi. So it seems to be that that particular lightsaber, which was obviously Anakin's lightsaber, then Luke's, it seems to be calling out to her. I believe her as a character was part of the title of The Force Awakens because it kind of awakened in her, so to speak. And also a reawakening in Luke. I think he's been gone for a while and perhaps disconnected himself from the Force in a way, and that's kind of awakens. But just the fact that this lightsaber kind of calls to her, and then she goes down there and she's drawn to it, and she touches it and has these Force visions with those voices, I think that kind of points to her possibly being Luke's daughter. Another thing would be in the trailers, we heard the voiceover from Luke Skywalker giving the speech about, my father had it, I have it, my sister has it, now you have that power too. We didn't hear Luke speak a single fucking word of dialogue in the movie, but perhaps that was him talking to Rey. We may hear something very similar with him talking to her in episode 8 now that she's there on the island with him. And another thing I wanted to mention, I was talking about in the movie trailer review, is that I thought it was odd that her, and Finn for that matter, could just pick up a lightsaber and just starts wielding it like she'd been doing it for a few years or had some training. Now Finn, again, I can partially understand because he was a stormtrooper and he probably learned a few things about fighting growing up as a stormtrooper, because it looks like the First Order simply takes people out of their homes when they're kids and they feed them all this bullshit growing up, and they never even give them names, they just give them numbers, which is where Finn got his name from, which was FN, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. But Rey held her own and whipped Kylo Ren's ass in the lightsaber fight at the end, and also did the Jedi mind trick before she knew how it was done. So that kind of points to maybe she had been trained before in the past. Now let me say here really quickly, all these ideas are not mine. A lot of these were from commenters in the movie review video, so thank you guys for that. I just want to kind of put all this together and add my own thoughts, so I'm not taking credit by any means for all these thoughts. But people are suggesting this, and I started thinking about it, that perhaps she was actually started to be trained by Luke when she was young. If she is in fact his daughter, that would make complete sense. She just doesn't remember, or she had her mind wiped in some way to protect her, or Luke thinks she's dead. And that's my personal opinion, the way Luke stared her down at the end of the movie, which is kind of creepy. But he also got a little bit emotional there at the end. It looked to me like, oh shit, you're alive. I think she got put on Jakku for a reason, and it wasn't that Luke wanted to just leave her behind and abandon everybody. I don't think he would abandon his daughter. I think that Luke thought that she was probably killed. One thing that supports this is that Kylo Ren knew who she was, or at least he said, the girl I heard so much about, when he caught up with her in the woods. That kind of leads to the theory that they had both started training as Jedi, and then Kylo Ren went dark, whether it was due to Snoke, and formed the Knights of Ren and killed the other Jedi. And of course she had the Force visions as well, where she saw the Knights of Ren killing people and there were bodies laying all around her. So to me that points to Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren perhaps slaughtering all the Jedi that Luke had started training in the new Jedi Order. Another thing that simply points to this is that Kathleen Kennedy, the director of Lucasfilm under Disney, now has said that this will follow the Skywalker family. So we knew immediately that Kylo Ren was Han and Leia's son, Ben Solo, but Rey is still kind of that mystery, and of course, like episodes 4, 5, and 6, we didn't find out who Luke really was until Empire Strikes Back. So I think that's going to be the mirror there as far as Empire when episode 8 comes out, is that yes, Luke had a daughter, and Rey thought that her parents were somebody else, and she was left there waiting for them to come back, which they never were. And I believe that probably had a connection to the Max von Sydow character as well. He's the one who had the map that it was apparently needed to find Luke, and why did he have that? Although he died very quickly, he seemed to know about the Force and Luke Skywalker. Obviously, he had the map. The other thing was that R2-D2 didn't wake up from his depression mode, or low power mode, I should say, until Rey got there on the base. BB-8 already went over there beating on him. C-3PO pulled the sheet off of him where he'd been sitting there in low power mode ever since Luke had gone missing. He didn't react to BB-8 at all, although BB-8 had the map at that point. He could have woke up then and said, wait, I got the other half of the map. One thing I questioned earlier when somebody mentioned this in the comments was, how would a droid know when anybody shows up? Because droids can't feel the Force, you can't affect droids with the Force, etc. But maybe he just heard her talking and knew it was her. So something connects that. That was the only thing I could think of, and other people pointed this out as well, is that he woke up only when Rey showed up to the base. That seems to tie in with Luke, since R2-D2 has always been with Anakin and then Luke. And when they flew off to find Luke, now R2 is with Luke's daughter. And another quick little set of things is just the similarities between, Luke and her in the two different movies, Episode 4, New Hope, and this. They followed a very similar plot line and story as far as A New Hope, paralleling to The Force Awakens, but they're both just naturally good pilots. They both grew up on a desert type planet, one Tatooine and one Jakku. Luke had an uncle that died that kind of forced him into the war, so to speak, as far as Uncle Owen. And then of course you had Rey, if it is in fact Luke's daughter, she now has an uncle that died in Han Solo. And another quick point I would make is that when Leia at the end hugged her when she was about to go find Luke, and the first thing I thought was, why aren't you getting on the ship with him if you want to go see your brother? But Leia and her had a long embracing hug, and Leia seemed to sense something in her, or something about her. But there was just some connection there. There was just no reason to sit there and hug that long and make that point of her looking at her the way she did. So those are the points I had on Rey, but I think if they do this, they obviously have to explain, okay, how did Luke have a child? So that they'd have to bring in the expanded universe a little bit, at least the idea of it, and some type of Mara Jade character, which was the girl that Luke married in the expanded universe, now Legends. Now they may change that name, but we may find out that his wife died, which would be Rey's mother, and he probably thought Rey was dead as well, and that's probably part of the reason he kind of distanced himself, took off, disappeared Yoda style, and maybe even cut himself off from the Force for a while, because I would say, well, wouldn't he know if Rey was dead or alive? Because he's powerful in the Force, they can sense when each other dies. But maybe he just lost his connection for a while. And of course, the Force Awakens in this movie, when she shows up and hands him the lightsaber, and he's like, oh shit, you're alive. I'm back, motherfuckers. And I would imagine that's probably the direction they're going, just based off some of these little hints they had and the similarities between her and Luke. And real quickly, I also want to talk about Supreme Leader Snoke and him still being Darth Plagueis. A lot of people are saying, well, he's not Darth Plagueis. He doesn't look like a Mune. First of all, I would argue that he actually does kind of still look like a Mune, and, just a modified version, because they did, I believe, in the Tarkin novel, kind of modify his appearance, kind of giving him more prominent ears and a prominent nose, as opposed to the traditional Mune character we know of from the expanded universe with Plagueis and his elongated head, where he barely has a nose and really just has ear holes. The other thing could be that the dark side takes a toll on you. So this could be a very old, damaged, and what have you Mune character if they do decide to make him that species. As we know, Darth Plagueis is canon, as he was mentioned in Revenge of the Sith when he talks to Anakin about the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. So basically they can make him what they want and still be that character. The other thing I would say about his appearance really quick was, he is scarred. You can see he's kind of missing part of his lower jaw, and he's got a big scar on his head. And if they're taking some stuff from the expanded universe, the Darth Plagueis book, that could be the scarring that he had received from Palpatine when Palpatine tried to kill him. So that could explain his scarring. One really cool clue that I didn't think about and I missed the first time was that Kylo Ren calls Supreme Leader Snoke wise. He told that to Han Solo on the bridge. The Supreme Leader is very wise. And of course, Darth Plagueis is known as Darth Plagueis the Wise, and we saw that in Revenge of the Sith when Palpatine is telling Sidious about the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise. The other thing was the music. You had this Snoke theme that was playing the entire time when they would go in and see Snoke's hologram, which was a 25-foot hologram, by the way, not a 25-foot character. And if you go back and look at Revenge of the Sith, the scene again where Palpatine is talking to Anakin, they play basically exactly the same theme. Go Google Snoke's theme, find it on YouTube, and then go look at Revenge of the Sith and that scene and listen to the music, and that's kind of a hint right there. And one other thing I would point to is him being obviously somebody that's not just Supreme Leader Snoke, just a made-up character, is at the end he says, go get Kylo Ren, it's time to complete his training. To me, that says, okay, I've been training him a little bit, but I really haven't told him the whole story. I'm going to use him while I can, but now it's time to reveal who I am, what's really going on and who your grandfather is. This may actually lead into the theory that Snoke, or Plagueis, actually created Anakin. And that could be the next big plot twist, like it was in Empire Strikes Back when we discovered that Luke was in fact the son of Darth Vader. I mean, wouldn't it be a cool scene to see in episode 8 if Snoke is sitting there with Kylo Ren and says, "Look, motherfucker, I'm the one that created your granddaddy." And one last point I would make would simply be that Neil Scanlon, I believe, was involved with the special effects in Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and he had said in a magazine before the movie came out that Snoke was 7 foot something tall and very thin, and of course that would match the description of Immune perfectly. So that's all I have for this, guys. I just want to throw this out there really quickly because there's some things that I missed when I did the main movie review, and I appreciate all you guys in the comments that kind of brought some of this stuff up and made me start thinking about it a little bit more. And I went back and checked some things out, added a few thoughts of my own. I just want to throw this out there for you guys and for me as well, so we can talk about it in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Go at it in the comments. Also, I'm working on Blood Raven Part 2. I promise I'm really working on it. I'm actually editing it now. It will be the next video release for you Ice and Fire nerds and Game of Thrones fans. But in the meantime, you can click here for the actual full Episode 7 movie review video I just released yesterday. And also for you Star Wars nerds, you can click here for the History of the Jedi video I did a couple weeks back. And I have Part 1 and Part 2 of that, which goes along with my History of the Sith video, although it is expanding universe and not considered canon anymore, but fuck it, it's what I know. So anyway, you guys, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Go at it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to get everything. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.